Welcome to Barley and Me. I'm your host, Ben Rice. This is episode 104. We're here today in Sparks, Nevada at Revision Brewing. With us today, we got head brewer, Jeb Taylor.
Hey, how's it going?
I might have said Jed, so I'm going to just clarify. Jeb Taylor.
Tennessee Jed, Jedediah. It all works, no problem.
And the owner, Jeremy Warren.
Nice to hear from you guys today.
And our special guest today, musician, mover of the Moving Crew, and also Thundervision, his one-man band. Give it up for Andy Zuker.
Howdy. Woo! Happy to be here.
Anyway, guys, how's business here at Revision?
Business is great, man. You know, we just had our 2-year anniversary just about a month ago. It's just amazing, you know. And when I parted ways from my previous company, Knee Deep Brewing, to partner up with some awesome people to create Revision, I didn't think we would be where we're at today so soon.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of where we're at, you know, this was like our 5-year goal. And we're doing things in the brewery now that weren't even part of the business plan. You know, it wasn't even part of the growth. And so we're excited, you know, and we're very fortunate to be here. And, you know, and it has to do with all the awesome people out there that appreciate Revision beers.
Yeah, you guys have been gangbusters from like day one, right on the jump out.
Yes.
If you just walked in to this building today, you would think that this was maybe a 7-8 year business. You know, that this is something that has built up over time. Just to walk in and, you know, see everything.
It's been crazy. We've gone through expansion since I think about 6 months into it. We got the first additional tanks, and pretty much every 4 months since we opened 2.5 years ago, we've been expanding. And what we thought was our limit, we squeezed some more out. And we're actually literally like squeezing tanks in the past couple of days. And but it's been great. Obviously, the beer would be nothing if people weren't enjoying it. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, and talk about squeezing it in. We thought we already completed our last expansion, and Jeb redid the calculations on our chilling capacity and confirmed them with G&D chillers. And oh wait, we got more capacity. Let's get rid of those 2 20-barrel fermenters and swap them out with 120 barrel fermenters. And so we did that. You know, someone actually called us out on Instagram. I thought you already did your last. Well.
No, this is our last for now.
Yeah,
I mean, super last.
Welcome to brewing. There is no last.
Yeah, you got to take it where it goes, and you don't. You know.
I have some like kind of pedestrian questions about distribution.
Absolutely.
Because the first time that I saw just a Revision IPA like in a grocery store, I was giddy. You know, I mean, I scooped that up right away. But I'm like, and I didn't realize that the company was only 2 years old. So I'm like, you must have known some of those channels from being in the industry before, but like. Did you set up distribution right away, or were you tap room first?
No. So we set up distribution before we were even a company. So when I sold my equity of Knee Deep Brewing Company, believe it or not, some of the distribution partners we had actually reached out and said, "Hey, what are you doing? You know, we want to distribute your products." That's why we signed up in the first place.
Nice.
And you know, during that 2 years of planning, sitting at my kitchen table, either in Auburn, California, or here in Sparks, Nevada, we were traveling the country and meeting with different distribution partners and kind of vetting them out and making sure they were good fits for Revision. And we had about 80% of our distribution network today signed before we even brewed any beer.
That's dope.
The cool thing on that was there was a particular distributor on East Coast that goes, Jeremy, you know you're the first company in the history of our company to ever sign a distribution agreement without a sample. And what really put the pressure on was when Jeb and I got to those final stages of brewing our first batch of beer, that's when it all sunk in.
Right.
Hey, I just traveled the country with one of my other business partners, Ken Foster, signing distribution agreements, shaking hands, saying we're going to deliver,
right.
and now we need to deliver.
So you had orders.
Exactly. You know, and that really helped us out. You know, and then we wanted to be a company that was distribution focused.
Okay.
But we also wanted to have a taproom element so that the people in our local market and beyond have a brewery that they can call their own.
Yeah.
That is a good way to phrase it, because you know, everyone's looking for their sort of cheers, right?
Yes.
And I mean, a place where you can sort of hang out, drink some beer for a while at different points in the day or the year or whatever, and feels friendly is nice, you know?
Yeah, so, when we started, we were so focused on getting up and running and actually making and packaging beer that the tap room was sort of by the wayside for a little bit. Initially, in our first plans, we had a concert stage, and the band was going to be in a container, and we had all these grand plans. And then when the budget came in and it was starting to grow, we were like, all right, what can we do without a little bit? So for a little bit, we were just like making beer. But since then, we've been improving pretty much constantly. So obviously the listeners can't see, but there's a nice red couch over there in the tap room area, and we're always making improvements, whether it's like lighting or the tables. And we're actually getting some glass roll-up doors by that company, Thompson Garage Doors, pretty soon. So we're always like making the area more chill to hang out in.
Yeah, and let's not forget that red couch was actually donated.
It is really nice, though. I mean, I know the listeners can't see
Can
it.
confirm.
It's leather, maybe? Or is that the real thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Seat 3 lays 1, which is my ideal couch setup. Lying down.
It showed up clean. That's all that mattered.
Yeah.
But to speak of that, when we built the tap room still is evolving. We wanted to keep it a blank canvas. And, over the last 4 months is how we painted. We added coolers, started adding a more art element, adding plants, lights, just those things. But all those things were ideas that our customers came up with. And that was something that was important to me, is not create something I want to hang out and drink a beer.
And call it finished.
Exactly. I wanted to let it evolve, and it's still doing that. And that's what's awesome.
And I like the fact that you guys kind of ignored your tap room. But you're like, well, we should probably give the customer something. Because, there's no face on a can, there's no connection with just a can that you're buying at a market. There's no brand loyalty unless you're like, no, these are the guys I know. This is where I go to get... and if I'm traveling, it's like, I went there, I saw it, it was great. I'm going to buy it when I'm back home. It's such an important part of, cause you can't be a nameless, faceless entity in the craft.
No, you can't. You can't.
Well, I mean, you were to me for a long time, and I was just, there was this particular scratchy, hoppy wonderfulness that just hits you, that came out of a Revision beer that I was like, these are my dudes. Because that, and it kind of fell out of vogue. As people went nuts about barrel aged, and then the hazies, of course, which I'm drinking right now for the record. But that super hop forward thing that's been my jam since I got into craft beer, and so that was the first thing. I truly was hooked on it, and then I met RENO as fuck.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I personally love curse words, and I love people who just just own it, this beer is not for children.
and on many levels.
And it's not. And speaking of children on that, and I'll get in more into the story later.
Mine are just starting to read now. So
absolutely. We started producing that beer, and actually I'll just go into the whole story. RENO as Fuck is actually a group of people here in Reno, most of them born and raised here. And it's about what RENO is. We're all RENO as fuck. It's about also protecting freedom of speech, making sure that we're not being censored, and really kind of just also, most importantly, embracing our culture here in Reno. What was challenging about the beer was getting the federal approval to sell the beer.
Yeah.
So I was originally just going to take the easy road and file as what we would call a certificate of exemption with the TTB, because they don't really regulate what you put on the label within the state you produce. It's really about interstate commerce, where they really kind of jump in. Hey, you're selling it across state lines, and so on.
That's interesting.
So with the Leafy Greens label,
regulation.
It is. And with Leafy Greens, I got hounded on that label a little bit, which is another great story. You guys should probably ask me that one.
Well, I'm sorry. Leafy Greens spinach, kale.
Dank is a bad word.
Yeah, dank was the profanity on that label.
Really?
Yeah. So the TTV, they actually called me, man. They've never called me for a label, and they go, "Hey, you got to remove dank off the label," and I'm like, "Well, I kindly disagree."
Yeah.
And,
we want to put musty?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why? And they go, well, because of your label. And I go, what's wrong with the label? And she goes, well, it's marijuana bud on the label. And I go, no, it's a mosaic of hop cones that might resemble a hop bud, but hey, cool. And so then the lady proceeded to ask me, hey, can you remove some of the leaves at the bottom? And I go, did you just ask me to trim? So because of that, and off the air, I'll tell you what we did and still got approved, but I don't want to on air say that. It's pretty cool. So off the air, I'll tell you the completion of that story. But so they kind of like, I was like, I'm going to get back at them with this RENO as fuck label. And so that's why I didn't do the exemption. I was like, I'm just going to go for the actual approval. And so in the notes to specialist, I typed in this whole thing about freedom of speech and, you know, the litigation they got in with Flying Dog Brewing Company over Raging Bitch and I think it's Shasta Brewing with wheat ales. And so like 2 weeks later, about 2 weeks, legitimately 2 weeks is pretty fast for TTB. I got an approval. I had to call like a last minute emergency management meeting. Like, hey guys, just so you know, this label's approved. What do you guys want to do? And so going back to the whole kids things was, we never intended for this beer to be in a grocery store, and it wound up in a grocery store.
That's where I buy it.
Yep. And you know, the rest is, you know, history on that one. But we try to do our best to make sure it is sold in the right places. We do not sell it in North Carolina or Georgia.
Yeah, they're not having it.
You know, it's different.
It's because they don't know where Reno is. It's really a location issue. They're like, it's so far away. They're not going to be able to like imagine the world that beer lives in.
But having been, you know, out there and having lived out west, like neither region understands each other.
No,
you know, and
it's different cultures. You know, it's.
Oh, I mean the physical geography. Like, you know, I was living in Northern California in Auburn and have friends land in LA and be like, "Yo, want to get together?"
Yeah,
like you're a 9-hour drive. Like, or, you know, I can't do it.
That's cool that you're a musician. We're monster music fans, and so even though we don't have a stage, obviously here, about a year ago for our anniversary party, we actually had a couple of bands in and professional stage and professional sounds and sound and lights, and the whole brewery over here became like a music venue. And since then, Jeremy's been super stoked on having that be pretty much a regular thing. Every 4 months, we'll have bands and this great sound and light, and even smoke machines and his funky bingo people. It's really fun and it's really awesome. So even though it's not all the time, we do have it pretty regularly, and maybe we'll start doing it every 2 months instead of every 4 months. But it's a hoot. It's good, and like we've gotten a couple hundred people in here and just having
that
fun.
looks so fun.
You ever you guys mix genres, or you like stick to a certain style of musician?
We've gone all over the place. We had a bluegrass band from
so
Oregon called the Pine Hearts. We have some guys in the RENO as Fuck collective play, kind of some funky. We had a circus theme event last time, so we had
which I'm seeing pictures of right now. Sorry to make everybody jealous.
So we're all over the place, like funk bands. We're all over the place. So it's like who's sounding good, what's the theme of the party, and who likes beer.
So I don't want to sound like a creepy stalker here, but before I left the house today to come here, I was like, I'm just going to click through Revision's website, and I saw Jeb's picture playing the bass, and just looking so like you, like that's what you're meant to do, and it was awesome. So I was like, I was curious what the story behind that photo was and where you were playing.
That one. So if it was outside, if it's on the website, I think that was from the High Sierra Music Festival a long time ago. So I went pretty hardcore trying to play music for a living, and it was really hard. We played from Seattle down to Santa Barbara, but you know, sleeping on couches and driving, you know, 4 to 8 hours a day for
the dream,
$20-$30. Like it was, and I mean, I had a lot of fun, but at a certain point, you know, obviously we were not flying on jets or playing big stages, or you know, I wasn't the backup bassist for Beyonce or anything. So I was like, wow, something's got to give. Yeah. And then with homebrewing was that awesome combination of science and art, something that could be creative, but it was still producing something. There was science, but also natural.
Like the hands of fate in the yeast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's something natural about it, but you could also influence it to a degree.
High Sierra is a really good time. Yeah, I went a couple years ago. I'd like to get back.
So I guess 2 years ago, I told Jeremy, I was like, man, so I might be going through a midlife crisis or something, but what I have this dream about driving a tricycle around with a keg in the back and just giving away free beer. He's like, oh, do it, man. Go for it. He's like, just bring like 10 kegs, whatever you want. Go for it.
All right, so my wife has this cargo bike, right? And it's like you can hold an obscene amount. I mean, you should put 2 kids on the back, and it's got a sort of a throttle assist and, a pedal assist and stuff. So, I mean, you could get a cargo tricycle and get a big keg system on the back, and you could be the hero of the music festival.
Yeah, it was great. So it was super fun, and I had a little, of course, like a Bluetooth speaker, but that was super fun as well. The only problem was the beer goes really quickly when you give it away for free at a music festival.
What was your rig? Like, how did you?
So it was like a wagon, just one of those kind of travel wagons, rollers, like fold-up rollers, and then kind of tied to the back of the tricycle. And just I would go around with 1 5-gallon at a time in a jockey box and cups, so everyone can have a pour.
So when you were complaining about how the beer goes fast, is that because you were running out at your own camp?
Yeah, I know. Driving around and like all of a sudden, hey, who wants a beer? Like, how could that keg be empty already? That's crazy.
Where does it go?
That's cool. That's super cool.
On the concept of sort of like putting curse words out in public, I've always thought it was so funny that people would be so, so ashamed about it. And I was really glad to see when I first saw it in a can that it didn't have like little asterisks, like it spelled out fuck.
Yeah.
It's not Reno as heck.
Yeah.
It's not Reno as frick. It's like, and I loved it. So I moved here in January, and I'm just, a new arrival to the city of Reno. And I'm just like, what do I got to do? I feel this Reno as fuck spirit in my heart. Like, how do what does it mean to be Reno as fuck? And I don't really know yet, So I'm just.
What are your inklings on what it means?
I don't know yet, but there's something that I noticed right away in town, which is that the people you meet are decidedly live and let live. Like, and most people are pretty friendly in their interactions, but like, you don't get a lot of judgment looks. You don't get people asking you tons of questions about your personal business, and a lot of really weird and different people seem to get along quite well. And I live up in the suburbs and stuff, and Jackie works in the south of town, and I go here and there, but it just seems like really functional, and people seem really chill. And so I'm like, I like that. Is that if that's what it means to be Reno as fuck, or at least to start getting there,
I think that's part of it, and you got to remember, I only moved to Reno in 1999, so I only know it from my own experiences. A lot of people that live here were born here. I think you described that very well, but where else in the U.S. can you drink 24 hours a day? Right?
It's true.
We're a small town, and yes, Reno and Sparks has grown substantially over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But before that big growth spurt, I still joke around going, "Hey, man, be careful what you do in Reno or what you say, because it will come back to you by the next day."
Yeah.
And Reno is one of those communities to where you could literally go point at someone over there on the picnic table, and within 1 to 2 people that is connected to them will come have a connection to you.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. This is the town where if you're at the bar at 3 a.m. and you do something you shouldn't do, we're all going to know tomorrow.
It definitely still has a big town, small city feeling, and like everyone is probably like 3 degrees from somebody else.
Yeah.
So you can never really get too big for your britches, but it also still has a nice small town feel. And it does. There's certainly an independent spirit that goes back a long time in Nevada. Yeah. And there's also it's changed a bit too. I don't know if it's just because of the legal weed, but people are certainly a bit more chill than even parts of Northern California these days.
It's cool. I moved from Michigan to Auburn area, Sacramento area, California in like 2006, and then just moved up here in January. And I love Auburn, California, and I love that whole area.
I love Auburn.
Yeah.
I still work down there, and so I get down a few days a week. At first, I was there all the time, and now I'm starting to spend some more time in Reno, and going to places like Picnic and playing open mic with meeting musicians, and finally starting to get kind of like the flavor a little bit. But I can't believe how much there is to do. And I can't believe how much like free stuff there is for like kids and families.
Absolutely.
My biggest fear, I think, was that people were going to be kind of, we're tired of Californians moving in, or I was going to get some attitude, but I haven't gotten that at all. And I don't know, people have been so nice.
You can go back now.
Well, it's been great to see you guys. Take care.
I've been here for 3 years, so I'm already a jerk.
We'll let you come back if you bring Taco Tree with you.
Oh yeah. Oh, we could branch. Taco Tree.
Yeah.
The burrito bush, my heart.
Oh, Taco Tree is the jam of Auburn, man.
Yeah, it's what it's known for. That's all it's known for, right?
Auburn has been great to me, as a person who lived there and as a business person. I mean, I have a moving company there, and like my competition is my friend, and people in town are cool, But it is a bubble.
Yeah,
it is.
Which moving company?
It's called the Moving Crew.
Okay, we might have used you guys. We moved from Auburn to Applegate several years ago.
Nice.
Hey,
2012.
that sounds like somebody else I know.
Yeah.
2013.
I lived in Applegate in 2012 too. And it was Applegate was rad. I liked it. There was an immense capacity in Applegate to be like really mad at like people from Burning Man, people from the Bay Area, people from the Valley, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it just became like their fictional monster, And I loved Applegate, and I loved the people there, but it was so funny. Anything that happened in town was, those Cityites, those Burning Man people, those Bay Area people, and it was like, settle down, Jasper.
When I moved there,
300 people in town.
A long time ago, Auburn Ale House was the only thing going.
Yeah.
And it was great, like, because they're
Yeah.
refuge, and they still had Gold Digger and the Pilsner that was killer, and
Californium. Sorry, I'm just going to shout it out. Californium was so good.
Yeah, it was.
That was like
Gold Digger
that was the
stands
first beer I ever like dragged out to friends. Like, you need to try this thing. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then they changed the recipe.
What's the red ale that they were producing?
Hop Donkey.
Hop Donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
That
bomb,
was a good
man.
one, for sure. I remember bringing my first homebrew recipe down there, and those guys, like, they didn't. It was my very first homebrew recipe, and I talked to Brian Ford and Bill Wood, head brewer at the time, and I was like, "Hey guys, I have my first homebrew. Do you want to try?" And and of course, knowing what I know now, like, I probably would be like, no. Because being so busy in somebody's first batch of homebrew, I probably might shy away from it. But then I think back to those guys, and they took the time to try the beer and talk with me, and
That's cool.
That was huge. And pretty much about a year later, I hooked up with this guy when Jeremy was bringing Knee Deep into the old Beerman's building, and that was 2010, 2011, something like that.
Yeah, I remember that we had two events in the Newcastle, Sacramento area that night, and I wanted to go to the Newcastle one, but I had to go to a different event, and my previous business partner was at the Newcastle event. And what was the name of that?
Jack's, or something. It was kind of like a funky music bar.
Yeah, it was a lot
Constable
of blues.
Jack's.
Yes,
Yeah,
Constable
that's it, yep.
They
Jack's.
closed down just a few years ago, but that was a cool venue.
I love that. I don't tell anybody, but I used to go up there all the time and drink a lot of beer.
Don't tell on yourself.
Doesn't make any sense.
Podcast
No.
for snitches over here.
Yeah. And then the Jeb though, man. Here's what's cool about it. He shows up to the event. My previous business partner Jerry Moore was there, and Jeb talked to Jerry for a little bit and handed him a brown paper bag. And in that brown paper bag was a 22-ounce. Exactly. 22-ounce bottle of homebrew. I think about 3 to 5 CDs from his band, and
Nice.
and this resume printed on this really expensive paper. And I remember sitting down in front of Beerman's and interviewing a lot of good people for a brewer's position.
And better educated, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of UC Davis brew school grads. Really highly educated,
Qualified folks.
qualified people. Well, Jeb came along. I think it was the last interview of the day, and there was something about Jeb that nobody else had, and that was called passion. And Jeb may have not had the training as if you went to a brew school by any means, but he knew exactly what was going on. Yeah. He knew what brewery was doing what. He knew what every beer style was. And this guy just wouldn't shut up. He just wanted to keep talking about beer and keep talking about it. You know what?
But did he also want to learn about it?
Correct. You know, and that's the thing too, man, is his beer was okay. The music was great.
But for a homebrew, achieving okay on your first homebrew or your first few homebrews, achieving okay seems like quite That's Mount Everest, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's why I had to ask him, like, tell me how you made that. And kitchen sink came up a lot. So I was like, that was great. But Jeb had the passion, man. That guy, he was bleeding beer. He was sweating beer. And he wasn't even brewing professionally yet. And you know what? I only knew what I knew at the time. And I didn't know a lot either. And I came from homebrewing. And I wanted to partner up with someone that was willing to get dirty with me.
Yeah.
And I remember brewing some beers with this guy and
stub some toes.
Oh man. There was a night we got our first stock mash brewing Identity Crisis. And Jeb's like panicking. And I'm like, man, it's
3 hours into it or something.
It's coming out, drip, trip. And Jeb's like, well, what do we do? And I go, well, it's gonna be a really long night. We're not dumping this. What do you want to do? And I go, well, there's a liquor store down the street and they got Russian River on in bottles. You want to go grab some?
That makes the stuck mash much better. Better.
What do you mean stuck mash for us?
So the liquid wort coming out of the mash tun, sometimes it can get clogged. Basically, it slows down to a trickle at the worst, and
that's supposed to nice even flow. Now, you said that you bought some bottles of Russian River at a local market. Was this by chance kind of up the hill a little bit?
No, this was the Zebra Mart in downtown Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay, I was in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Because there was a little market near your first place in Auburn, Treehouse One, that had like Pliny hidden behind stuff. But they didn't. But they hit it on accident because they were like charging like $4 for it.
They didn't know what they had.
And so we had a party where we ran out of beer, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the place down the street, and I was like, oh, I'm taking all of this. Like they didn't have a limit or nothing. I'm just like, these, please. And came back.
So I should say that Ben Rice was like one of my first few friends in California, and probably one of my most enduring friends. And I cannot get rid of him.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've been through some very silly stuff together, and now it's like at this point it's getting to be like, well, this is most of my adult life that I've been out here hanging out with you.
When you said 2006, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. And, of his many talents, which it really has many, he's a hilarious comedian, and he is also, like knows more music than anyone. I know you used to be a music reviewer.
Yeah.
But, like, for years in our friendship, you'd just be handing me stuff like, listen to this, and I'd be like, this is flame. Like, he would give me, like, tailored suggestions, music, that
I'm not some dick who's like, well, I like this, you'll like it. I'm like, no, I know what you like. I feel like this is like a side step.
Yeah.
That's an easy transition. Then, like, now I got him there. I'm going to get him here. I'm going to get him here. And it's like,
but if I had
you're going to
listen
to Mars Volta by the end of the night, motherfucker. And it's like,
even, dreamy pop like Isley and just wonderful things. But yeah, so we've been friends for a long time and gone through a lot. So when he was like, hey, do you want to do this thing at your favorite brewery in Reno? And I was just like, fuck yeah. So actually we'll raise a glass to that.
Cheers
to
Ben
Rice
that.
And this podcast. This is my second episode.
Yeah.
We did a Thanksgiving episode at my house in Applegate.
Yeah.
Yes. So, speaking about music, are you guys going as far back as that giant iPod that used to exist?
Oh, you mean the one I still have?
Yeah. The one where it's like...
The indestructible?
Yeah.
It was an inch and a half thick.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we're going that far back. No. I have the smaller, but also the most space. I still use it. The iPod Classics.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it holds so much.
Those were the coolest things, man.
Yeah,
coolest things.
Yeah,
I got made fun of for it. The other like
by
maybe
who?
People are like, you just get that on your phone, right? I'm like, hey, first of all, not everything's available. Okay.
No.
I have rare. They're not rare. I have local bands from 2003 in Minneapolis that don't have stuff on there, and those albums are great.
You gave us like an 8-disc set, Q's Best of 2008.
Yeah, I did that for a lot of people.
Like
that's probably 2007.
It's your personal music archive.
Yeah, I used to do, like, when I was doing music reviews, there was always the year-end best of. You had to, like, compile your list and, like, write about them. And so I just, like, burn those and be like, here's my top 20 for the year. Merry Christmas, motherfucker. And they're like, we don't want this. I'm like, I know, but...
Because I will listen to the same music from 2000 or 1998
absolutely.
Forever. I just finally, like, went through the Shins phase, earlier this year. And that's 10, 12 years old, I mean...
Oh, is it? It's 2003. Shoots Teneros 2003. It's 16 years old.
Wow.
Well, I just turned 37 this year.
When you start doing the math, it just gets real sad.
Yeah.
It gets so sad when you realize how old songs are. You're like, Oh, this is 20 years ago.
Oh, I just went back and just created this whole hip hop playlist stuff from like the mid 80s to the early 90s.
Oh my God.
And as I was doing that, I was asking my partner, I was like, hey, what year do you think this is from? Never got one right, but Speaking of that, I do have a great idea. At the next beer fest, we should go find some 8-track tapes and we should stash an iPod inside of them with some wires coming out. Because, have you seen those videos where they'll put the old rotary phone in the room and they don't even know what it is?
The kids are like, what, how do you put a code in this? Like, what do you...
Yeah.
It might be cool to just put a little 8-track tape around your neck with headphones coming out of it just to see what people would say. This is my random idea of the day.
I remember a few years ago, my friend who's also from Michigan, he's living in Portland now, and he's in quite a rowdy, I guess, psychobilly band,
Okay.
And he's like, oh, everybody's doing cassette tapes now.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck the world, dude. I'm done. Like, I listen to vinyl. I love my records, but don't bring cassettes back. They were terrible.
They were so terrible. But my favorite thing is there's this French electronic artist. That's right. I would order internationally. Who would release his albums? He would every label for every album he sold was different. It was just him doing 80s montages on top of stuff, and he'd record over actual tapes he owned.
Well, that's cool. So artsy. I actually love it.
I like that.
I like that.
And then he'd send it to you in the mail. And I had 3 or 4 of those tapes. Those were great.
I got a spam email from one of the musicians.
6-track EPs. So after 6 tracks, I'm like, those 6 tracks are over. Now it's back to Mariah Carey because I didn't record the full album.
Hey, CNC Music Factory at the end of this. That's dope.
Hey.
I got a spam email from Musician's Friend or CD Baby or Disc Makers or one of those you get when you're a musician, and it's like, is now the right time to start selling your music on USB drives? I'm like, no, nobody wants that.
No,
I don't want to just hand someone, hey, here's a virus for your computer, check out my band. I don't. It just seems so suspect to me. As bad as the guys on the streets who are like, here's these headphones. Put them on. You're like, no.
There's a record/CD chain that just went out of business in Sacramento.
Oh yeah, Temple's closing down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's not out of business yet. It's going out of business.
So
Moment of silence.
Actually, it's a great place to go get super cheap equipment or super cheap CDs, records, whatever they have left. At the same time, it's kind of a sad sign.
Predatory
of the
vulture behavior. I did it to Tower. When Tower went out, I'm like, this is bad, but also I'm gonna go clean up. I got friends together that love music. We're gonna go raid this. Is that okay? You available Tuesday to go raid this place?
Well, I'm just gonna say how the USB drive's a bad business decision because I will lose that, but I won't lose my phone.
Exactly.
Well, unless I've been drinking all night.
But then, so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna release
keys, wallet.
I'm gonna release a new single, and I would kind of like to, or a new album. I'd like to sell this for, money or income.
What?
And then the world is like, no,
thank you. No. Is it
but
available
you get
for
them
free?
to come to your show and buy your T-shirt, and now suddenly you're a businessman. Yeah. And that's the secret magic we're all working on.
It's so stupid. You can't make money doing anything entertainment-wise. You have to have merch. But that's how you make your money.
When it comes to music, I'm gonna have to take a step back because I do not understand how it works. All I know is I love music. I love watching musicians perform. And when they're awesome, I'll buy their CDs. I'll buy their... fortunately, when I was at Treefort in Boise, I got to actually buy vinyl.
Oh, I love that.
It was, and I agree, swag. So,
but that's how it works, though. I mean, and, I have been a musician for a long time, but then for the past 12 years, I've run this moving company in Auburn, and so lately I've been trying to take a more business-like approach and look at it in a... I have a DBA for my stage name and an account and a tax ID, and I have my distribution set up through CD Baby, and I have my copyrights, with the Library of Congress and the ASCAP, and I have all this back end stuff, and so I'm working on an album now. But I realize that when you're a musician now, you're not going to get signed, but you can get a long ways if you consider yourself all these different departments. I'd be the creative department, I'd be the accounting department, I'd be the merch department, I would be the distribution department, I would be the booking department, and it's just all different hats that you wear in one day,
Sounds like Revision 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's crazy, man.
How do you delegate, though, when it's your own... I'm talking about some silly songs I wrote.
Well, but you also have your business, so you know how to do all that stuff, because you got the other hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
As a business owner.
There becomes a point where you have to delegate. So, again, your music background starts growing, and, you start having more shows, and you're recording different albums, and you got your distribution network, you got your marketing side. You will have to delegate one day. And that's a big challenge just in for me in the past, not today, but in the past is, you eventually have to take your finger off of it. You kind of have to just let other people run it. But you got to find people that are just really good at what they do, and you got to believe in them. And that's the thing is, if you hire someone or you put someone in charge of something,
you better trust
them. Do it.
Yeah.
Let them do it. Don't go, what are you doing? Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're still doing what you're doing.
You're doing twice the work.
Yeah.
Really, you're doing their job and your job, and then their job again.
And I totally agree with that approach, but you also have to equip them to do that.
Right.
And part of them is them knowing what the vision is. And I found through the years, the people who have become partners at the moving crew, and my best employees, and just they want to know what to do, and then from there, once they know what to do, they're down to help. If I say, oh man, I got to head back up to Reno, can you take care of this paperwork for me? People are happy, to do that and do their job. And it's but you had to give them that space to do it their way. Yeah. But I am curious about, I think about music and business and this incompatible friendship, but you have to be a good business person if you want to do anything with music. And I feel it's got to be the same way for craft beer, because this is a glass of joy right here.
Absolutely.
But this is not something that we need. People, this isn't the power bill, the water bill. This is something for purely pleasure, and you are doing art. You're doing art when you brew. Now you have to sell this art as a commodity.
You absolutely need both. You need great beer and great business. You can't have one without the other. Yeah. Otherwise, that brewing company won't survive.
Yeah, it's easy to go, and I'm going to say this based on my experiences. Hey, I can make great beer, and I want to open a brewery, and I did do that, and I was making a lot of great beer. Yeah. And Jeb became part of the team, and Dean and John Gogler and all those guys back in the day, we were all part of this team making awesome beer. Well, that's great. Well, now we got to sell it, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the selling element of it. Okay, now you're talking about distribution networks, you're talking about the retail side of it, and managing that. And then once you do that, then you have to also keep up on the bookkeeping side, compliance side. There's all these things that you got to do, and my biggest lesson that really kind of put me in my place was my previous business partner, Jerry Moore. He did tell me when we first partnered up, he goes, hey man, if I ever have a problem, I'll let you know. Fair, right? And we were brewing a bunch of beer out of Lincoln, California, and it was the weekend. I had family coming to town, and man, I got keys to the brewery, I'm a brewery owner. I'm going to go in there and grab a keg of beer. So I went and grabbed that keg of beer, and great, man, I had a great weekend. Monday morning, that beer was sold to a distributor.
Oh, no.
It was accounted for, right? And my previous business partner at the time was like, hey, remember when I told you that if I ever had a problem, I'd tell you?
Yeah.
And in just a few sentences, it was the most eye-opening experience in my life. He goes, are you a homebrewer, or do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Do you want to run a business, or do you just want to keep making homebrew?
Yeah.
The beer's great. Other people want to drink it, and you got to be able to separate yourself a little bit between the two. And that's when I was like, oh shit. You're right. I want to keep paying my rent. I want to be able to buy things, and that was important to me. That was a lesson learned in life. And to kind of add to what Jeb's saying is, Revision is about making the best beer possible, and also about running the most sound business as possible.
And I forgot to mention this. I noticed it when I walked in. So everybody's complaining about the price of craft beer as it gets bigger and there's more competition.
Yep.
Every pint here is $5 besides your stout.
Absolutely, and that comes down to
for a place where you now you go anywhere, it's $8 for a pint anywhere.
Absolutely.
You're like $5.
That's crazy. I've always felt like when I saw $9 6-packs of Firestone Walker, Pale 31, I was like,
that blew my mind.
Oh my gosh, what's going on?
But I was like, and now you're like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when it went to 9, I'm like, what is this madness?
Not to call anyone out here, but is a Sculpin, 4-pack really worth $13 or I think it's great beer.
If it's fresh and awesome,
It's a very good beer.
I think it is, personally.
Well, because you're paying $5 or $6 a pint versus $14 for 6.
And I'm here for the experience, you know. I mean, like if
Thank you for saying that, because that's what everything's about, is the experience.
It is, you know. My experience if I'm buying beer at the grocery store for my home consumption is a little bit different. And you know, and if I come here and if you guys told me $7 or $8 or $9 for RENO as fuck, I'm probably still gonna buy it. But at the point when it's getting to be $9, I'll be like, what? Am I at Arco or RENO right now? Am I at the Golden One Center? Like,
and it's never fresh.
Yeah,
Ah, yes, high prices for inferior product. It's the best way to live life.
Yeah.
So why we do $5, man? It's one of those things where, hey, you know, when you get into the hazy business, you know, we can go into the costs of all these things, but you're looking anywhere from a $15.99 to a $17.99 4-pack if it's priced the way it's supposed to be. Again, we can't control what retailers are doing.
Yeah.
Or you're buying a 6-pack for $11.99 or $12.99, depending on your region. We just want to make sure that when you come to Revision, the price of our glass of beer is not going to prevent someone from having a beer. This is, we could make more money by raising our prices, but we choose not to, so that everybody, no matter how much money somebody makes, can come in here and have a good time, drink a beer, and have a good experience.
Yeah, because it's always been kind of craft's problem is that barrier to entry, whether it's a weird flavor, because back when it was cheaper, you could only have like a cheap mediocre beer. It's like you wanted a Belgian, it was still $11.
Yeah,
and it's like a weird flavor. So now it's like, okay, these are accessible beers and we know they sell, so therefore we will price it higher. And it's just like there's still a barrier to entry that you've made it accessible, but now it's not accessible financially.
No.
Everybody's trying to make money, and everybody's trying to make a nice living. And it's great if you can take a passion like this and turn it into a viable business, have a good income, create a legacy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, money is not the only thing that makes life worth living. And I mean, if I'm here at a brewery and I got a group of friends, I would even pay $5 for someone I don't like that much to buy them a beer. But if it's $9, I'm buying you a beer. I don't know about
you know, speaking of money, you know, you nailed that one. And when I decided to walk away from Knee Deep Brewing, the tattoo on this right arm, you know, I remember Blair Robinson interviewing me for the Sacramento Bee, and I can't, honestly, no disrespect, but I can't remember if it was a on the record or off the record question, but he goes, "Hey man, why'd you leave? You could have just walked into your office, thrown your feet on the desk, and most likely have been set for life." And they go, "That's not why I do what I do."
Right.
Yeah.
Money doesn't motivate me, man. The beer does. And, you know, I love beer, man. And again, we're very fortunate to be a profitable company, and we get to make some profits and pay our bills, right, on a personal level. And we get to share that, man. And it's not about the money, man. And the minute it's about the money, you lose focus.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done.
If somebody is behaving rapaciously, and you know their beers are way too expensive, and you know, somebody's behaving purely for that greed, I don't feel like that brand is going to endure, or it's going to become some commercial thing. You know, not to name the most famous American beers, but there becomes a point where that you know it's sold like a commodity, and it's sold to people who aren't in it for that thing.
Yeah.
And we don't begrudge a man who makes a good living by working hard.
Yeah.
It's just when
you begrudge a sellout.
Yeah, we hate a sellout. We're musicians and craft beer dudes. We hate sellouts.
So it's also with music where oftentimes, but not always, a musician who's being more authentic and doing what they want to do and being true to themselves, generally, but not always, they will have success from that. They will, if they're doing something that touches other people in a way that they enjoy, they will be successful. Where there are probably a lot more stories of people chasing success that are not being truthful in their music or in their beer. If their only goal is making money, generally they will not be as successful as people who are trying to make good stuff.
Flash in the pan type people.
So I have to add to that, and it's awesome to hear that, because a lot of people ask me and go, "Jeremy, how did you do it? How did you create 2 awesome breweries, and how did you become successful?" And I go, "I don't know. And I go, do you want to hear the truth?
The whole time.
Kind of was.
And it's a beer place.
Yeah, I love making beer, man. So I will say, do you want to hear the truth?
Yeah.
And some people believe me and some don't, but they should all believe me. I go, hey man, I've always just made beer that I like to drink. And during this journey, others share a similar preference in beer. Their palate is somewhat the same as mine. That's all I did, is create this. And yesterday we were wax dipping some barrel aged bottles for a release next week. And I was like, so we have like a 23,000 barrel a year capacity now. And it's like, Jeb, what do you think if we just brewed over 20,000 barrels of barrel aged beer without even thinking? This guy goes, then what are we going to drink?
We can't drink that all the time. Yeah, we love some sometimes, but there's so many other kinds of beers that we make and that we don't make yet or might not ever make.
Exactly. it was a great point.
So we are speaking of that a little bit. So unfortunately, I have to go in a few minutes. My partner Elise has got her cousin in town for dinner. She's only here for one night, so I got to go in a few minutes. So I'll check out then. But one of our plans on the horizon is to get a pilot system in, like a 5-barrel system, so we can do a lot of beers that we might want to have on tap and try every once in a while that frankly aren't popular, will sell very well, but just a variety of Belgian beers, a variety of English pub beers, anything that we want to try, wild stuff, not so wild stuff, but so we can taste them. I'm sure some people will like them, but there may be like 5 people in this room that are like, oh, you have a Saison on tap?
Yeah, bro. Yeah. And before we go, I just want to say this because you brewed it probably. Your blonde is amazing.
Yeah.
That was.
And people are like, they're IPAs. They're known for their IPAs. Like, you should have their blonde.
Oh, it's really good.
It's
the
so
silvery
good.
can.
Yeah. That blonde ale was a project that Jeb and I both worked on, and just to simplify it without all the details, it is nothing more than a traditional pub-style blonde ale with Jeb and I's little touches to it, man. Like it's clean, it's classy, it's refreshing.
Can you give me an example of
your flair, your little touch?
So we're trying to replicate
like the old speckled
as best
type?
we can a lager. So we're approaching that territory, but down the pike, like we were talking about doing like real German pilsners and Helles, real lagers. We were talking about that for a while, so that's going to be happening soon. But for now, with the ale strains that we have in house, that's kind of as close as we can get for now.
Absolutely. So I know you talked about 5-barrel system. So once Jeb departs, I could talk to you about some of our major expansion plans that we're working on. And
I just wanted you to know that I love that beer before you go.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks,
great job.
Hey, thanks so much.
I appreciate it.
Sorry I'll leave you hanging. Thanks, guys, for enjoying our beers. Couldn't do it without you.
Awesome.
See you tomorrow,
All right,
man.
Jeb. See you tomorrow.
Have a good one.
See you on the stage.
So Jeb brought up the 5-barrel system. So obviously you're here while we're moving these 120-barrel tanks around. So we're getting ready to wrap up our expansion plans for a major expansion. So behind you to my left is going to be a row of 8 120-barrel fermenters. It's also going to have 4 5-barrel fermenters, some 5-barrel brights. There's going to be a brand new 5-barrel pilot brew house there as well. And then in the very back of the brewery is going to be an inline 40-barrel brew house, so that we can take the production, our day-to-day production, off the 20-barrel and put that on the 40-barrel, because we're brewing 5 to 6 times a day, 6 days a week right now. It's a grind. So just the 40-barrel brew system.
What is your
alone.
staffing like?
Yeah, I was just gonna have
Man, I think. Brittany would have she has
like,
answers.
let me think about it. This is not a thing I know offhand. That's how big it is. Most people are like 5.
Well, we talked about delegating, right?
That's funny because there's 14 of us at Moving Crew, and I met with an insurance person today, and she's like, "How many employees?" And I was like, getting my fingers out to count.
Exactly. I can call them all out by name. I think we're about 27 employees right now. I think we're going to be hitting about 30 here over the next 30 to 60 days. But, that 40-barrel brew system is going to allow us to free up some of that labor. But we're not freeing up labor to save money. We're going to shift that labor so that we can invest that into the research and development. So we're in the process of creating a 4-person innovation team.
Nice.
And they'll also be responsible for still operating the 20-barrel brew system, but they're only going to brew 1 time per day average over a 5-day work week on the 20-barrel brew system. And they're going to be filling up the maybe 1 or 2 of the 40s or 1 or 2 of the 60s. And that's just scaling up the projects that we're working on.
And these are experimental beers?
All
or these
experimental,
are market
man.
testing?
So you're going to be testing and seeing what it looks like, how its scalability is working?
And that's what's awesome.
Are you going to get like a lab in here, or what's going on?
We actually
already have it.
We're building it out right now.
Nice.
We have a lot of the equipment in here, and we have more equipment coming. What it's going to do is, and this is the biggest thing that's important to me, if you were to come in here on around 12 noon, 1 o'clock, when both shifts are usually here, we'll walk the floor together, and I could tell you why brewing beer or being part of this is important to everybody. And you have to, and that's what's important too, is knowing that. And what's very important is maintaining that. And when you go down, no matter if they're packaging the beer or putting it in the boxes or filtering or brewing, whatever their job is, they love the beer, they love contributing to it, and they want to brew their own beer. Hence the 5-barrel. Revision's at that stage now. It's Jeb and I have a lot of things that we still want to do.
Yeah.
But the next generation is on that production floor.
Yeah.
And that's, let them shine, let them grow, and 5-barrel it, because you know what? If we brewed a 5-barrel batch twice a week, 52 weeks a year, and not one was sellable, I don't care.
That's pretty minor.
Drop in the bucket.
You know,
I grew
absolutely.
up in a family business out in Michigan, and my father always told me, like, you know, don't shoot down an idea from a new guy or someone who's, you know, don't shoot down an idea from anybody. Like, if it's a preposterous idea, you can, you know, use it as a teaching moment and explain why it's preposterous. But he's like, sometimes the freshest people on your crew will have an eyesight that, you know, the veterans don't.
Absolutely.
And if you have people here who are like, they're passionate about this beer and what they do, it's no different than when you met Jeb.
Absolutely.
And that sort of excitement, which you can't convey that excitement on a college degree.
No.
And that doesn't mean you shouldn't get a degree. And it doesn't mean that, I mean, fermentation sciences is rad. Like the Davis program and stuff, rad. But that raw passion and that willingness to learn, that deep interest in what you're doing, like that's just...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to work for a guy where they're just doing what the other guy says all the time and having no creative outlet at all.
No.
You won't take ownership of it.
Yeah. You're like, I'm just going in there, I'm going to put in my 8 hours, I'm going to go home. And then your product suffers because they're not happy.
And that's the key point right there. The product now suffers. You know, if someone's filtering beer and they're just not happy with what's going on, they could lose more beer by taking their time shutting that valve.
Yeah.
And what, you know, it's just, absolutely.
So it's an industrial job.
It is.
And I'm sure you have some unique OSHA type stuff.
We do, which we volunteered for actually. When we opened, we actually volunteered with the state of Nevada, which kind of the Nevada has their business and industrial division. And what it did was it allowed the state to come in here and audit us. Then they put a plan together. They identify things that aren't right.
Yeah.
And we had to post that in our employee break room, and we had to fix it. If we didn't, it would have been reported to OSHA. So
what I think a lot of, you know, in my experience in the business community is business people are incredibly fiercely anti-regulation, and even if they can't explain why. And I've always kind of been of the mindset that we listen to the people who are scientists and who study these things, the people, you know, even ergonomists and whatnot. We listen to these people and we take their professional recommendation in the name of keeping our workers and our customers and ourselves safe.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I don't want to drink a beer from your company knowing that, you know, someone fell into a machine because you have lax standards. I'm straight up, you know, I mean, like, I don't want to give money to companies that don't take care of their employees, you know, and there's a very big famous employer in Reno right now that has a lot of sort of safety problems, you know, in their culture and stuff, and it's something you have to address. And I mean, I'm coming from Michigan, I'm coming from the Rust Belt, I'm coming from that kind of background, and the people who are here making your product, they need to go home with all their fingers straight up, you know?
Yeah.
Revision is its people, its family, its employees. Everybody here is important. And it's Revision's responsibility to create a safe and sound environment. And there are things at times where, hey, we don't really know. Well, how do you know you don't know unless you welcome somebody to come in and audit you? And you're willing to and know that you're probably going to fail something, but you're willing to spend the money and invest to correct it, to create a safe environment. We did that. And we're getting ready to do it again after this expansion. We've grown so much.
That's a huge expansion.
Yeah, I mean, we've grown so much. It's like, all right, well, we learned a lot on the first audit. We've been learning from others in the industry. I'm sure we missed something.
Yeah. But never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
Because you never know everything.
All the safety programs in the world aren't going to make a fork truck less fun to drive.
No.
And so there's still going to be things that happen.
You should ask me about my forklift video at Knee Deep.
You know what?
Tell me about your forklift video in Knee Deep.
Thank you. Since
asking, ye shall receive.
Let us know.
Since you asked. When we were first building out the production facility in Auburn, our equipment manufacturer was there to assist getting everything going. And we were installing these 60-barrel tanks, and I think it was a 90-barrel tank we were installing. And the guy from the company goes, hey, man, we should get on the forklift and take a picture at the very top of the fermenter. So we're on a pallet, lifted up, great photo shoot. So we come down and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if this forklift can do 360s while we high-five somebody?
I saw that coming immediately. Wait, are they on? Is somebody else on somewhere else and yours?
There's someone on a forklift. Myself and this gentleman from this manufacturing company are on the pallet. We're holding on. And we're doing circles in a forklift while high-fiving while someone videotaped it. So here's what happened.
Oh, my God.
No one got hurt.
Yay.
Yes.
Always a plus.
I took the video and posted it on Instagram.
This is my, if you mention a gun in Act 1, it will show up in Act 3. We have the barrel aged.
My business partner, Brittany, calls me and says, take that video down right now.
Yep.
What the fuck are you guys doing?
You're like, this was dope, dude. We had so much fun. Yeah,
there might have been a handful of people seeing it, but you know what? That was another lesson in my life going, gosh, man, these people are like, oh, that was a little... Yeah. But you know what? Speaking of, I had to throw it out there.
I've heard a lot of forklift as we're building out stories over the years. None for air. This is the first for air building out forklift story. But here's a dream I've always had. I don't know if I'm insane or not, but when I head up the 65 and it's like a one lane each direction, I just want to stick my hand out to high five a person passing me in a car. But I know we'll both break our arms.
Yeah.
But I want to do it so bad.
Wouldn't that be a great physics experiment in college?
Like how fast you can go without breaking an arm.
But we can just do it on paper, right?
Have you ever heard this a French phrase, the call of the void?
I have not, but I imagine it's like if I'm not going to turn on this like veering of the roadway, let's go into this barrier type thing.
No. It's like you're standing at a big cliff. You know, say you're in Yosemite or something. You're standing at a cliff. And some little part of you wants to jump.
Right.
La Pelle du Vide or something like that.
So like when you go on a freeway, it's like, hey, this road is turning to the left. Like, I should go straight.
Right. Like, you want to high five. You want to high five those people even though you know it's wrong.
Oh, yesterday.
And I see a forklift right now that I want to drive.
Yesterday I was like on my lunch break at work. I was going for a walk in Palo Alto, and I saw this guy like jogging. It was like 9 in the morning. That was my lunch break was 9 a.m. yesterday.
Ouch.
So I saw this guy jogging. I'm like, I'm going to high-five this guy. I'm going to offer a high-five to this random dude jogging at 9 a.m. And he's like...
You're out of control.
And he gave me a high-five, and it was probably the highlight of that guy's day. I was like, I feel
that's
good.
What we're lacking
that guy
today.
Feels great.
I love it.
I guarantee that guy
in your
is
car,
like, fuck yeah.
Don't do it.
Because I yelled at him, fuck yeah, dude. Not fun.
He's like, please leave me alone.
Yeah. No, he was like on board. But I posted up like a good 30 feet from him because he was running, you know. So he had time to like, am I going to give this guy a high-five? And he could have shrugged me off, but he didn't.
I feel like I have a lot of moments like that with strangers. Yeah. And it's being open to that, you know. And it's a nice way to live, you know?
Yeah.
So you just gave me a new beer idea. I want to make a beer called Fuck Yeah, and it's just high-fiving.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So, Ben, tell us what we're drinking, and then Jeremy, really tell me what we're drinking.
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
he had mentioned there was a barrel-aged beer coming out. Before we started recording, there was a bunch of talk about hand signals of verifying what beer he was requesting based on his hand signals, and he said, 2 was a barrel-aged. And I'm like, well, I was in your tap room. There is no barrel-aged on tap. So I noticed that we all had empty glasses or borderline empty glasses, so I was like, hey, can we get that barrel-aged?
Would that be those barrels over there?
No, those ones are still full. But that's part of our barrel aging program, not the one we're drinking.
So it's a barrel that previously held some whiskey.
Yes. Actually, this beer here is our second ever barrel aged release in a bottle. What we're drinking right now is Separation Stout. This is a blend of our Darkling Imperial Stout, which is more of your traditional Imperial Stout. Mm-hmm. And this is also includes our non-barrel aged Separation Stout, which is an Imperial Milk Stout. And this was originally started with about 36 Jim Beam barrels. And over about a week and a half span, Jeb and I and a few other guys on our team went through and sampled every barrel to decide the final blend.
Well, time out.
Yes.
How do you sample a barrel?
So Marty, which is our barrel master, will go through and use like a wine thief.
Is that his business card?
It is.
Marty, the barrel master.
Yep. He'll pull out the samples for all of us, so we all have our individual glasses. He'll number them, and he's prepared to tell us what barrels are what beers are what. Sometimes we ask for the information, sometimes we don't. We use an A through F grading system, and we go through it. So no one's allowed to talk.
Whoa.
You have to evaluate, write down your notes. You have to assign a grade. You are allowed to change your grade after we have a conversation. So then once everyone's done, then we can talk.
So, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I really want to make sure I know what you're talking about. So you get these barrels from a supplier.
Correct.
And then you have a bunch of different types of barrels, and you test one barrel full of each beer. And
absolutely.
Then so the one that wins after, so you fill them up and you let them age in there for a period of time?
So every beer was aged a minimum of 1 year.
Whoa!
Yeah.
So you've been at this for a minute.
Correct. So the barrels that we have over there, the Stranahan barrels, Woodford Reserve barrels, I have about 50 more barrels approximately coming in over the next 2 months.
Wow.
Our goal is to have about 100 different bourbon or whiskey barrels aging at any given time. We don't want to ever exceed that. We're still learning.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about the blending.
So that you get the test, and everybody does you're in silence, you take your notes and stuff like that. Say the one that wins, you say, everybody gave this barrel an A, this is the one. Then you can buy more of barrels with the same characteristic?
No.
That's just the one you got?
No, so when we're evaluating the beer, we're evaluating what's going to make the blend. So if something was graded, usually you have to be in the B to A range to be even in the blend, right? There might be exceptions from time to time. Don't get me wrong, there's been times where we had a barrel that might even be a B plus, A minus that didn't make the blend. Because there just might have been a characteristic of it that could detract.
Yeah, like it's good, but it's not for this beer we're making.
We have a 4-barrel bright
That might be another beer somewhere down the line.
Exactly.
How do you know?
Blending is insane, dude.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. It takes us a week and a half to go through 30 barrels. I can only imagine how long it takes Firestone to go through all their barrels.
Yeah.
And once we decide on the blend, so for this beer in particular that's being released next Friday, not only was it blended, so I can tell you firsthand that every barrel that I tasted did not taste like this.
Right.
And I wasn't completely stoked on the barrel itself, but I was stoked on the bourbon character it added.
Yes.
But it wasn't amazing to me. I didn't give one of these barrels an A.
Yeah.
And when we blended it, I got to try the blend before we took it to the next step, which I'm going to get to. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, that was amazing. So then once we created the blend, I think we rejected about 6 different barrels, and we aged this on cocoa nibs for about a week and a half.
Yeah. I just wanted to, before we keep going, Andy, what are your notes on this beer? How do you feel about it? What are you getting out of it?
So that's a really good question, because I kind of shuddered when I was told that we were going to have a barrel-aged beer, because I don't like them. And what I don't like about a lot of the barrel-aged beers that I've had is it just tastes like whiskey.
Yeah.
And which I'm not trying to drink, but This one, it's so soft. It's so like it doesn't taste like someone dumped whiskey in my beer. It's like a really stout beer. I get
the
that
nose
milk
is
stout
the very bourbony on the nose.
Yeah, it smells,
but it's not really in the flavor.
No, and so I'm crazy impressed because this is the type of style that I typically do not like. But it is creamy, like you said, milk stout. It is creamy. It feels really good, like in your mouth and throat.
Yeah, it is decadently chocolatey.
Yeah,
I would say that. Almost a wine characteristic. Are you getting a wine characteristic mixed with that chocolate, or am I getting an insane person? Like a little tinge of wininess to it, and not a lot of barrel, not a lot of bourbon to it.
Not a lot of barrel, which I'm really glad.
But like very rich chocolate. It's like slightly fruity.
Because if it sucked, I would tell you. Right here on the podcast.
I appreciate that. So,
and I don't usually break down beers. But I just want to point out this bourbon-aged beer. Not a lot of bourbon characteristic to it. It's an amplifier.
No, but the bourbon characteristic that is there is kind of like back in your cheeks.
Yeah, it's amplifying. It's not focusing.
It makes me think of pecans.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting though is when we were actually sampling different blends, we were getting a lot of bourbon, right? We were getting a lot of tobacco. We were getting a lot of vanilla. Sometimes we get how we would describe it as cola. Just these different characteristics. And I'm gonna have to say a traditional Bean barrel. I wasn't overly excited at the end, where I was like, hey, if I'm really looking for this one characteristic, I'm going to bring those barrels back to be part of a blend. They weren't my most exciting. But once they were blended together, it became more amazing. And Marty's been really good about helping us develop our barrel program. And so we have a 4-barrel bright tank that's in the corner that's mobile, actually. It's a mobile bright tank, believe it or not. And so those barrel rejects that we had, Marty is now going to take those one barrel at a time and develop new adjunct imperial stouts with, or whatever we can come up with and really develop. So I have another one that I want you to try too.
Oh God, we're doomed.
So the last time I tried opening one of these, they made a YouTube video of me taking like 20 minutes to open it. Oh, so we're gonna.
There's a brewery down Barrel Brothers. Do you know those guys?
I've heard. I don't know them firsthand.
They did one wax dips that was so thick it was the wrong kind of wax. They couldn't open it, so they made a video of them like showing ways to. I broke a knife on this thing trying to open it. They made a video like how to properly open it, and their ending result was get a katana and slice through the top part of the bottle and avoid the wax entirely. They're like, yeah, we fucked up the waxing on this. It is industrial strength waxing.
But you're a breaker of things. I mean,
hey.
9 maybe 10 years ago, I had these unbreakable plastic wine glasses that could not be broken, so they claimed. And so Ben grabbed one.
Don't give me a challenge.
Yeah, Ben didn't believe that. He grabbed one, he threw it at the ground as hard as he possibly could, and he's a big guy, and it turns out it broke, and everything is a lie.
Now, to be fair, it did take me like 4 or 5 throws, and I did destroy one.
It was
not destroy. I disassembled one of your cork boards with all the kind of pictures.
Or are you watching me right now?
I am.
So when I said that YouTube video was made, Judy Ashworth was there with me.
I love her. She's great.
Yeah, I love her. Such a great, man. Her story, I know you guys did a podcast with her. And amazing.
I would not really, I didn't know how to reach her because she's not very social media. And I like called in every favor I had. Like, somebody get me a number for Judy Ashworth. The brewer's like, well, are we gonna do this? I'm like, I'm getting Judy.
Yeah.
You should have went to Porky's Pizza. They would have hooked you up.
How do you know?
Oh, I got it. I had a friend that said, I'm going to visit her on Thursday. I'm like, can you put in a good word? And he forgot to.
That is so awesome.
And so I was like at a brewery just like talking to this guy who I knew listened to the podcast. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying for episode 100. I'm trying to get Judy Ashworth on there. And he's like, yeah, I work with her daughter-in-law.
Nice.
Just email me at my work email and I'll get it done.
Can I tell you the coolest story about Judy?
Please.
All right. So, when I was at Knee Deep Brewing Company, Jeb and I developed Hoptologist.
Love it.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why that beer was developed was for my dad. My dad, Mark. And we won that festival, got a gold medal.
Yep.
And that's when we were kind of coined the Pliny Killer. And it really helped catapult Knee Deep's success and really helped create an identity for Knee Deep Brewing.
Yeah.
So when I left Knee Deep, I went to either the IPA Fest or Double IPA Fest, and I was talking with Vic, and we were talking about his history of his event and how Russian River and some other breweries, I think there was 12 entries the first year. No one made double IPAs.
Right.
And he was like, hey, man, when you get Revision open, are you going to have your grand opening party here? And I was like, well, I don't know about grand opening party, but I would love to throw a party here. So we threw our pre-grand opening party at the Bistro in Hayward, California with Vic and his wife, Cynthia. Amazing humans. And Judy and Gary and everybody was there. This place was packed. And
That's cool.
Judy and I were standing on the stage at the Bistro, and we were in this really great conversation. And I just stopped, and I said, Judy, look at the crowd. Look at everybody talking, drinking beer, having the time of their life right now. And I go, this is what craft beer is about.
Yeah.
And that is nothing shocking to people like us, because that is what craft beer is about. And to me, that was a very beautiful experience I had with Judy at the time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm so glad she did the podcast. It was like crazy to me. I'm like, there's no reason to do this. You know, like,
It's that love of beer.
please drive 3 hours in the sweltering heat. To be fair, it was not hot at all for any day leading up to it or after it.
If somebody asked me, like, why do you love
I'm like,
beer?
we're going to be out in the fields. It's going to be a great shot. We'll be out like in the hop fields. We're like, it's 103 degrees today. My equipment started burning. Like the camera started overheating. We were there for 8 minutes of actual usable time.
Oh my God.
I was like, we need to go back in. It's too hot to do that.
If someone asked me, like, what I love about beer, what I love craft beer, and they were to, be like, oh, well, beer gets you drunk. Well, yes, obviously, we love to, we love to catch a buzz and stuff like
What
that.
am I, 22?
But it's the same reason I'm a foodie. Like, I could go to many outlets and get calories for dollars.
Yes.
But there's particular things that I want, and I want this experience,
Is that called Cheesecake Factory?
I'm not gonna, I'm only here to be a positive light. I'm a
me
positive
too.
light.
I love their food. Trust me. I just get fat eating it.
I went on my birthday this year, which was in May. I went to the Stone House, the place in Reno here.
Oh, I love it.
And I went by myself.
Yes.
And I had, I don't know, I might have drank a Revision beer because I drink beers everywhere. But I had a great craft beer, and I had this, like, plate of food that made me cry like an opera would make you cry, I apply the same thing to my beer. Yes, I like to get silly with my friends, but, like, I want it to be a creation. My wife and some friends did homebrew for a while, and it was chaos, and it destroyed my kitchen, and it was a mess. But they got to serve our friends something that we made. My wife brewed beer for our wedding, which then, of course, we ran out of immediately, and we sent Ben to town to get more kegs, and he missed our wedding. But
because they had given the O2 to somebody else, so I had to go find
a jockey box, right?
Yeah,
or like an O2 tank?
Yeah, the O2 tank. I ran all over Auburn trying to find an O2 tank.
Yeah, we sent the guy from Sacramento to crawl Auburn and find it.
Well, no, because I went. They were supposed to. It was supposed to be at Little Belgium, but somebody else had an emergency where they're out of O2, so they gave it to them, forgetting they'd promised to Andy. So I had to. They're like, where else has O2? So, like, a Little Belgium employee gets in my car, well, Andy's truck, and we're running through Auburn trying to find who has. We go to eventually our fifth stop,
like
we're
Harris
like a
Industrial
pizza
Gases.
place. We're like a pizza place. Like, we have one,
many
and we're like,
people
cool.
have O2.
And we go, and I take off, and the fucking wedding is over. And we're like,
yeah.
oh, it was so great. There was like a falcon that flew in with rings. There was like
a
dude
falcon.
doing handstands and flip, like to introduce. Like, we're starting, and there's going to be a dude doing handstands and flying down the aisle, and then there's a falcon that flies in with rings. And I'm like, I was looking for an O2 container.
To be fair, though, I was literally the groom, and someone was like, you need to go get more beer. I was like, I'm getting married in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I'm not gonna go
I was
chase
like,
this
send
down.
that fool. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, my soon-to-be wife brewed the beer. Please figure out how to pour it.
Yeah. And she was pregnant and she couldn't drink any. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
So this
That
beer,
was a
this beer
crazy
is
good
strong.
one.
This just like kicked me in the face.
Yeah, this is right. There's no. Like, that other one was like a little sweet and like a little tender.
no, this one
And
is
was
violent.
like, boom, fuck yourself.
This one that I just poured you was our Finite Madness.
It took him 5 minutes to get
Our
the wax
first
off.
ever barrel release in 2018. So this one we when we
on it.
release them, we do keep enough to age so that we can potentially re-release them. So now you're getting a little beer that's been in bottles about 5-6 months now.
So that has a way stronger bourbon taste.
Correct.
And there's no creaminess to it like the other one. And it doesn't give me that stout thing that I like. It's kind of up front with the bourbon, and I can tell that there's a lot of booze in it.
Yeah.
So y'all are getting more handsome each moment that I sit here and no.
And that comes down to
pretty handsome walking in the door, though.
You did, man. We were about to 86 you, man.
Yeah.
You can't walk in.
Who's
like
this
that.
guy stealing all the?
So
Motown
again,
t-shirt.
remember how I was just talking about
Good
Jim
looking,
Beam, right?
charming, and well spoken. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. That's why.
I like that as soon as I said well spoken, like
Let me dive back into some personal stuff, if I may, Jeremy. And I appreciate, I don't mean to pry.
Oh no.
For me, when I started the moving crew, it's pretty much just totally ruined in life, and I was like, okay, I can do moves, and we can get this going, and I was passionate about helping people, but I assumed there was a point where you were like going to take a dive into the beer industry, maybe from a more comfortable job, maybe from nothing, and just like with music, people are like, oh, well, that's a cute hobby, but that's not like a career. But you made a career, and I want to know about that transition from
homebrew
to make it,
to
not
commercial.
just a hobby, to make it something,
Yes. So I will elaborate on that. So
I'm sure it was scary.
it was, but it was also a time of seeing things differently. So when I was a student at the University of Nevada, my last 2 years at the university, I got into homebrewing. So my first wife, Erin, amazing woman. Her family's amazing. I learned so much from them. She bought me a homebrew kit for Christmas. And when she bought me that homebrew kit, I remember sitting on the couch. I actually have a picture of me on the couch opening up next to my dad.
Nice.
So my dad and I, we've always been close, but not close. So this was an opportunity. I actually got into brewing to build a better relationship with my dad. He's been into beer
awesome.
when he thought Henry Weinhard's was craft beer.
Oh yeah.
Back when
I mean,
you
to be
would
fair,
go to
it was.
Albertsons or Lucky's or whatever it was at the time, and they had like 4 different types of Henry Weinhard's, maybe even 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like pre-Sierra
Like-
Nevada?
like an amber and a
about the right
brown.
time,
They're
but I think they had a
80s.
wheat and they had a pale and that shit. They may have
Probably-
even had an IPA. I don't remember.
I
but
guarantee they did not. like we have an amber, we have a wheat.
I just remember trying it, going, I can't drink that.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Like, and one of our 4 is root beer.
Yeah. So I get this homebrew kit because I was into drinking good craft beer with my dad, and so I get this homebrew kit, and my dad was in town for the weekend. We were drinking Hop Trip from Deschutes when it was first released back then, buying it from Ben's Discount here in town, and so it's like, Dad, this is a 5-gallon batch. So we went to the local restaurant supply store here, and I went and bought a 5-gallon pot. Like, who buys a 5-gallon pot for a 5-gallon batch? You want to get like an 8-gallon or something, right? So I brewed it.
You had 5 gallons, right?
So
I bought you a
brewing
brewing
the
thing
beer.
for your wedding, right?
Yes, you did.
I don't remember what the size was. So
It was fucking huge.
Yeah.
And it was
More than 5 gallons.
all right, maybe 20.
I don't know. I did not pay attention. I like
It
this
was.
is- you were getting into brewing. Jackie was getting into brewing.
I was not. I was just.
Jackie was getting into brewing.
was
I was
getting
like,
into brewing.
I'm like, I love beer. You guys know I love beer. The things I give you are music and beer. Here's beer.
Yeah, here's 20 gallons.
Yeah.
Ben has been the most loving friend. He's just a good guy. I mean, he seems like a piece of shit in a lot of ways, but it's not true. He's actually a very good guy.
Yeah.
Well, the more I sit here, the more I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I start off as a piece of shit just because I want to brew. Because if you're nice to everybody, you're going to be friends with terrible people. So you start as a piece of shit,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and then you work your way down to nice.
I like to
I
start
like how
out
you said
charming.
work your way down to nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
because you don't just want riffraff hanging around.
No.
Anyway, but back to your story. So,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
trying to bond with your father, which us males in America have centuries of problems with that.
Absolutely.
And your dad's into craft beer.
Yeah.
And so you get a homebrew kit from your wife, which was a sick gift.
Yeah.
And how did the very first one go?
Awesome.
God damn it!
But I
No,
don't.
that's wrong.
No, it was awesome.
I'm so upset.
But let's just put it this way: to add to why it shouldn't have been awesome, was I remember when it came down to you need to chill the wort I was like, well, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah, that was my hell. Like, huh?
So it was middle of winter in Reno. I just opened the garage halfway and went to bed.
Yeah.
Now that is Reno as fuck.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right there.
There we go. Yeah, I was like, I'm a man. I'm not going to read the directions ahead of time. Chill. I don't have ice. What do you think
I
I'm
remember
doing?
the part where it said add hops, and I was like,
What?
well, how much? When? It just said add hops, so I was like, fuck it. I'm throwing them all in.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, this IPA came out great. My dad loved it. I put it in a keg, put it in bottles, went to his house, loved it. Well, the shitty part is for the next 3 months, I can never make another beer good. And I would bring samples down to the bay where my dad was living, and my grandpa showed up, and I give him a beer, and he goes, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you giving me this fish tank water? Man.
Fish tank water. New brew by Revision.
Yeah, exactly. We'll never do that. Don't listen to this guy. But you know what?
Fish tank is
My
fun.
dad was happy. We connected, and I wasn't going to let that go. I did everything I could to learn how to make better beer. And then I made a batch of beer. It was called Hopstar IPA. I entered it at the Sierra Tap House annual Sierra Nevada Brewing annual homebrew competition here in Reno. Mike Connolly puts it on every year. I won People's Choice, and then I also won first place, and Terrence Sullivan came up and was one of the judges for that. I remember winning that and looking at Terrence like, I'll give you the recipe, and he goes, no, we got this, man. But what I won that day was the opportunity to go to beer camp at Sierra Nevada, and I went to
nice.
Oh yeah, it was called
beer camp.
No, I think I gave you the incorrect beer name. Hopstar came from Beer Camp 17, but it was Hop something. I don't remember at this point. But I went to Beer Camp 17, and I got to meet Ken Grossman. I got to hang out with Terrence.
Nice.
Scott when he was there, I think before he went to North Carolina. And I got to experience some just awesomeness, man.
Yeah.
Just, I drove home from Chico to Reno going, this is what I want to do for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that I did not even know how I was ever going to do it.
And I wanted to get to this earlier, but this is the perfect opportunity to say it. I've noticed in your career that your reputation has preceded you at every step of the way, which has really helped to catapult you to where you are.
That's helpful.
Because your reputation before Knee Deep opened was already stellar in the homebrewing community, and a little bit he should be doing this commercially. Then you're like, I'm going to go into commercial. Fucking finally. They're like, hey, this guy's going to leave Knee Deep and go do his own thing where he has complete creative control. Fuck yeah. Reno is fuck yeah. I really do feel like there's very few people that have that reputation that precedes them everywhere they go.
Well, let's get real. So that's a thing that affects all of the arts, whether it's the foodies, the brewers, the musicians, or whatever. And sometimes, reputation is even more powerful than the thing that you turn out. And it's weird when you are kind of well-liked and you get a pass on mediocrity.
But the thing
people
is,
like you already. But
there's no mediocrity is the problem.
No, I know. I'm speaking of my own music. Speaking of my own music career.
Yeah, there's a rest on your laurels possibility.
But the if you deliver time and time and time again, then you fulfill those shoes that they laid out for you.
Yeah.
And then you have something. But that is a gift, and it is a privilege, and it's no accident.
Yeah. And the nice part is, you're 2 years into Revision.
Correct.
Which it feels
How
like
can this
longer.
be a 2-year-old?
It can't even be. It feels like so much longer. Because it feels like you've been a presence in my life for a while.
You guys give me the chills on that one, and I've never heard someone say it the way that you just said that. And for the first time in my career, I really don't know what to say.
I'm sorry.
All I could say is, I just love beer.
Right. And that's the thing, you could crash and burn because you're they'll all, everyone's here for my beers. Fuck, you know what? It's all made from my garden. It's just vegetables. And you don't do that. You're like, no, I know I have a reputation, but I also need to maintain the reputation.
If you're about our age or slightly older, then you had the movie The Jerk by Steve Martin to kind of help you realize, reach for the stars, but don't be that guy, you know?
Absolutely.
And I
And
feel
don't
like
hate these cans.
No.
I feel like our generation now, and even younger generations, really want something quality, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
They want it authentic. They want it to be a high-quality
if we
product.
have to go to the river and drink 40 beers for like 12 hours, I'm probably going to buy some PBR.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go to the grocery store, I mean, I was drinking Revision last night at my house. I was thinking about this project coming up, you know? But I buy that Revision IPA like a regular grocery staple because it's just that beer that I like.
Yeah.
Now, I put a picture of me with a can of RENO as FUCK on Instagram, and I got some hits, man. I got some thirsty people came to talk to me about that. And a bunch of, other breweries in the area started, like, following me and stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, this is how I'm going to hit all these people up to try and get musical gigs.
Yeah.
Can I get a case of that RENO as FUCK, please?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm an unapologetic cheerleader for that product. I just fucking love it.
You know what I love about RENO as FUCK? It's not just the label. It's actually an amazing beer inside that
right.
can, too.
So it's like there's a promise, and then there's a delivery on that promise.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that.
So I like to screen print T-shirts. I haven't done it too much in a while, but it's fun making the screen and spray. And I've had this vision in my mind of a RENO T-shirt, but I feel like I'm such a freshman here, I can't make this shirt yet. But I was going to do just kind of a black and white of the skyline of Reno, and then just beautiful cursive script that says Reno. Fuck around and find out.
Can I give you some advice on that?
Yeah.
Don't fuck up the mountain outline because they will call you out.
If you get the mountains wrong. I've been trying to ride my bike up Peavine. I've been getting closer and closer from my neighborhood off of Rob Drive and stuff. That's actual mountain.
Dude,
that's a real mountain.
I was actually on the Nevada cycling team at the University of Nevada back then, and that's where we used to train is Peavine, and I used to ride those trails all the time. And you got some beautiful trails on South Reno too, up on Mount Rose Highway.
Yeah, we almost bought a house down there, and in the kind of South Reno that actually backed up to some BLM land.
Oh yeah,
and that would have been pretty cool. We ended up in the north part of town, and I think we saved $100,000.
Easy.
Ooh. It was crazy.
Easy.
But I'm so happy with our house. I love my neighbors. I love my neighborhood. Like, I'm so happy in Reno, and I didn't know I would be. I thought I would be because I'm a happy guy.
You made a good choice.
But I really like it here.
No, you made a good choice, man. Reno's landlocked. There's really not that many bad places to live in Reno. We'll focus on not those bad places. But I used to live off Rob Drive when I was in college. I used to live in that whole area. South Reno's got its own perks, but man, I'd prefer that area because if you're into the outdoors, man, you're half a mile to a hiking trail, man.
Exactly.
Who has that? You got to live in Boulder, Colorado for that,
Well, that's what I had in Auburn.
That's what I used to live right off of Highway 49 off of Joger.
Okay.
And man, every day after work, I'd either ride home or I'd be hiking or Hidden Valley or the Confluence.
So when I was in Auburn, I lived in South Auburn, and you could get to the canyon trails.
Yeah.
And I mean, within just a few blocks. And so I would, get up on my bike, ride a few blocks uphill.
Aren't those the forbidden trails, though?
Well, some of them. I mean, the PG&E canal trails, but there was one area called China Bar that had a proper entrance and a road all the way down. Ride down to the bottom and then haul my fat ass up to the top. And I mean, I was in shape. I mean, I loved it, but I could also be 3 blocks from seeing something, or 3 blocks from being unable to see something man-made.
Absolutely.
I could stare at the canyon. And when I lived in Applegate, I had a nice view from my back deck. And, I'm a mover. I go to everybody's houses. I give so much. And I'm talking to people, furniture, houses, suburbs, streets all the time. Go home and just stare at the pine trees.
Yeah. Who gets to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it
amazing.
seems like a real privilege.
I when I was living in Auburn, I would wake up in the morning and get to stare at my window, and all I saw was trees.
Yeah.
And
so my main bedroom window, just looks out slightly over my neighborhood, and then Peavine is behind it.
Yeah.
In the past, and I've been watching the snow kind of get smaller. I've been watching the mountain change throughout the months that I've been here. Been watching the big storms kind of get stuck up on the mountain, and it's like, this is magical to me. This is
absolutely. Have you heard of Poville?
No.
Behind Peavine, based on where I believe you're living, was called Poville for its time. And Edgar Allan Poe's cousin lived there, and that's why it's called Poeville. So if you actually do a Google search for Poeville in northern Nevada, you can learn a little bit of history about how it connects to that.
That's cool.
Nevada has a lot of history, man.
You know, I think of Nevada like, well, actually, jokingly, you know, my sister, when I first moved up here, my sister who lives in Michigan, she was like, ew, who the fuck lives in Nevada? And I was like, I don't know, nuclear waste and gamblers? Like, I don't know.
That's
but I mean,
8 hours south.
That's so not real. That's so not what's happening.
No, it's not.
And it's unfortunate that I had that silly reputation of Reno. But actually, now that I live in Reno, I'm like, you know what? Let people think that. This place is very special.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I haven't thought about it that way. I've been, my whole career, I've always wanted to, when I first founded Knee Deep Beer Company, it was actually out of Sparks, Nevada. My first business license was out of Sparks. And I've always had this, I've always wanted to make a beer, an IPA that was so badass, but the bottle cap said brewed in Nevada. And I wanted people that were drinking some of the best IPAs back in 2010 to 2012 go, where the fuck did this beer come from?
Right,
what do you mean
people
it
don't
says
know anything about Nevada?
Yeah. And based on what you just said, I've been still having this goal of contributing to elevating the state of Nevada craft beer from southern Nevada to northern to be a craft beer destination. But after what you just said, I'm like, maybe I should slow down.
Well,
because it's awesome the way it is right now.
Because people are both heaven and hell. You know, other people are, it's great to get.
Some would say hell is other people.
Yeah, I mean that would be Jean-Paul Sartre, I believe.
People.
But it's also, I mean, yes, I want to share this. I've been telling my friends down in Auburn, like, what fun I've been having in Reno, and like how cool the Eddie is, and how cool Picnic is, and how like these places like, and having a great time. But then I'm like, I just moved here. I can't be like telling other people not to move here.
Yeah, but you know? Who else has like a shipping container bar on the river with 3 different bars?
That place is dope.
And shipping containers that you get to sit in
the hammock
with
swings.
Permanent food trucks.
Yeah.
The Eddie, definitely, that concept is amazing.
Eddie rules.
They rock, man, like hands down.
So I went from a town of, well, I mean, Auburn has maybe 11,000. Yeah. And then I came, we got 350,000 people in Reno. I mean, another 150,000 in Sparks. And went to my first open mic night at the Picnic. And, oh my God, everybody was so talented. And I was like, nervous, but I killed it, you know? And then I've been trying to go back there every week and like start to establish a little community, because those are a bunch of musicians who just like have the right idea and they have a ton of heart, and all genres are welcome. I mean, there was poets, there was rappers, there was bluegrass, there was Americana. On Tuesday this week, the show was opened by a 90-year-old man who played This Land Is Your Land. And I mean, it was like, this is cool.
That's not only Reno, but that's Picnic. You know, Ryan and Trevor, some of our business partners. Some of the owners, all the owners of Revision Brewing Company have a minority stake at Picnic. Ryan and Trevor and Sean and others have done a great job establishing what Picnic is. For us, that's where we used to drink. An opportunity presented itself and allowed us to invest into their operation.
Because I've never seen a bar with a local tap room in another part of the bar.
Yeah, upstairs has like 4 rooms, and it's really cool.
I hate to tell you this, but because I like Revision beers so much, I've never purchased anything from the downstairs bar. I've gone there like 6 or 7 times now.
So because you said that, I want to elaborate. Downstairs, you can't get Revision.
You can't.
You can only get other people's awesome beer.
Excellent beers.
Yeah.
They have a great choice, but I'm like,
can't get Revision downstairs.
I'm gonna go to Revision.
Downstairs, Picnic is not about Revision. It's about embracing great cocktails. It's about great beers. The imbibe. You know, it's, you know, if you want Revision, go upstairs, man. That's its own little deal.
Yeah, and get some pizza from Noble Pie, because they always have it.
And they deliver.
Yeah. I had so much fun there a few times now, and I have started to meet musicians, and that's really important to me here in town. I love it, you know. I just have been wondering, and I wasn't sure I was going to ask you about it, but I wanted to know how that deal came about.
So, you know, Ryan and Trevor, back before Noble Pie was called Noble Pie, it used to be called Pie Face Pizza. And when I first started Knee Deep Brewing Company, I made a beer for them called Pie Face Pills. And It was on tap at their downtown Reno location, because at the time they didn't have the Midtown location. And then Knee Deep and I moved on, and they kept growing. And you should probably ask them this question, so I'm speculating. They got a cease and desist for the Pie Face name, and they had to change their name to Noble. Revision opens up here in Reno, Nevada. We're hanging out at Picnic all the time and eating a shit ton of their pizza, which is awesome. It's probably why I gained a lot of weight, but I'm actually losing it now. But
not here to discuss it.
Thank you. You know, we had that relationship. And those gentlemen, and Sean too, we can't forget about Sean and what he contributes to that. Passionate, man. They're fucking driven. And when you sit in Picnic and have a beer or cocktail, whatever your choice is, there's something about that place that you can't bullshit. You have to be part of it.
Yeah.
And they're part of
it. It's an old house.
They created that. It's an old house. Like, it's music. You know, and I've sat there for 6+ months just drinking, having a good time. And I got to talk to Ryan and Trevor about some challenges they had. And I was like, hey, man, I have an idea. What do you think, man? Like, how could Revision help? You know, and that's not how could Revision help you. It's more is how they helped us. You know, and that's what's important, man. And to be able to form this partnership, and
it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
It doesn't happen, man.
No.
It's not out there, and you just have to let it go from there.
I think that's right.
Yeah. I've only been to Reno a couple of times.
Well, we need to talk
but now
about
that I live here.
But here's the thing. There's a dichotomy. There's the casino world of Reno, and then there's the Reno world of Reno. Like, the first time I came here was to do comedy, and I was doing it at the comedy club inside the casino, and it was legitimately one of the worst shows I've ever done. I'm like, this was truly terrible. I'd like to leave. And then me and the headliner and the feature, we all went over to like some random beer bar that happened to have an open mic. And we all just murdered for these like random Reno people that weren't there to be fucking gambling. They're like, we're from Reno. We're just here to have a good time.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, this is going to be a terrible trip for me until I went to some random bar that had an open mic.
But that's Reno, man. Like, don't get me wrong.
There's that dichotomy.
There is, man. The casinos definitely contribute to a large part of this economy. They do a lot of great things.
Because they employ so many people.
They do. But, man, don't think of the casinos
as
what Reno has
and
to
you know,
offer.
I did. To be honest,
right, everybody
I
does,
did.
and it's not true.
Right.
Reno world
but all the
versus
people
Reno
I know
casino
from
are so
Auburn who
different.
go up to Reno come here, go to the casinos, and come home.
Well, they
and so
always
that's
do.
what they've been telling me about for 12 years while I lived there, you know.
But that's fine. Like, we want the casino industry to strive. You know?
For sure.
We want that.
Well,
It
as
makes
a
everything-
parent with a kid in a school system, I'm pretty happy about the casino
Yes,
because
exactly.
like, these schools are really good.
It has
the
its
air
positives.
quality here is really good. The water quality here is really good. Like,
Did
I
you
mean,
just
there's-
say water?
yeah.
Don't let all the secrets out, man.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the water's
Scratch
terrible.
that.
No one come here.
Scratch that from
you
your
do
podcast.
not want to open a brewery here because the water is horrible.
Yeah.
It's really good, isn't it?
It's amazing water.
When I see that, I drove up today. I saw that Truckee
Somewhat.
River.
Garbage. It's all
It's
pollution.
garbage, yeah.
Well, it does fluctuate seasonally.
Yeah.
It's not like PG&E out of Auburn. I'll tell you that. That's
So
pristine.
I had some serious flashbacks to Michigan while I was shoveling my driveway this winter. And I'm in the north part of town, so I'm slightly higher than like downtown or here in Sparks, you know. I just kept shoveling and shoveling and shoveling, and like, oh my God, like my neighbors kept coming outside and being like, oh, this never happens. It doesn't snow this much. I'm like, well, here we are, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but now the weather's just beautiful.
It is.
Now
it
it's
is.
like,
I do want to add that we have a special guest.
yes.
Okay.
His name is Sam. Sam has been with us since the day Revision opened.
Which is most employees, honestly.
Absolutely. He's
What's
probably
up,
like
Sam?
number 2, number 3 employee. Like University of Nevada alumni, chemical engineer. He runs our entire cellar program here. So any beer that you're drinking and tasting, this gentleman has had his hands on.
And no matter what he does, he can't be employee number 1.
No. We have to give that to Mike.
Yes.
Respectfully, that goes to Mike.
Mike's number one, and then 4 of us started like 2 weeks later.
Exactly.
Sam, are you a native Nevadan?
No, I am from California. And then came up here for school.
Yeah.
But we're like a 3 miles south Californian or like way south Californian?
Grass Valley, California.
So
Grass Valley.
not very far.
That's 2.5 miles, right?
Yeah.
Grass Valley.
I haven't got a map in front of me, but it's not
a
that
special
far.
place. I love Nevada County.
Yeah. It's like Nevada County, not big enough, going Nevada State.
Yeah.
I've always grown up in Nevada, no matter what
Yeah.
it is.
So I do want to add something that Sam drinks a lot of Revision beer, and don't get me wrong. Well, he's really good at how he drinks.
Compared to the national average, where some people don't drink at all.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Maybe we could sell that metabolism.
Yeah. I remember recently explaining, I was like, yeah, I'm 5'11" and some change. And somebody was like, man, I can't believe that. Like, as a man, you don't just say you're 6 foot. Like, you admitted you're under 6 foot.
What are you doing?
I'm like,
you cross 5'11" and 1/19. You are a 6 foot tall man.
I'm like, it would be disingenuous if I said I was 6 foot because
I look at the BMI charts and go, how do I grow inches so I can keep drinking?
Like I was just saying, I was 130 pounds when I graduated high school, and same height. I am twice. You know, some people are like, I'm half the man I used to be. I'm like, I'm twice the man. I'm twice the man I used to be.
Hey, man, I think it's Final Gravity in California, and I have to call it out because I always remember this like little placard they have on there, and it has something to do with having a belly and being happy. You know, and I'm not even going to try
choosing
to shoot
between six-pack abs or happiness.
You know, and
six-pack abs or six-pack of beer? Which one are you going with? You can't have both.
But college always told me the more happy you are, the longer you live. It's been proven.
Yeah.
Well, let's find that balance, right? You know.
So anyway, about Sam.
So Sam.
Tell us about Sam.
Sam knows Revision beer. He knows it so well. Not only is he responsible for the cellaring and everybody else that's responsible, which he oversees, but the clarification, the stabilization, and really getting that product ready for packaging. He's also the same guy that will be at the end of the bar after a shift, having a couple beers. And when I walk out of my office and go behind the bar, he's also the first one to say, there's something wrong about this one.
Like what, Sam? Like what?
I mean, I'm never going to lie about the beer I make. I always want to make the best beer. And if it's not right, then I want to make something better.
And
are you saying that consistency and quality are key?
Absolutely. And I'm gonna speak over Sam here for a minute.
Are you saying that an inferior product
is going
to be detrimental to your business?
Well,
Sam, how dare you?
You know what? Hey, do me a favor. When I'm done with saying what I'm saying, let's call him out because I want Sam to be Sam. He's really good about telling you how things are. Sam knows his beer. He knows it. That's an understatement. And if there's something wrong with it, he's going to tell you. And I remember that happening, and we had some challenges. Any brewery is always going to have its challenges. And he called out some stuff, and he goes, this isn't right, man. This isn't right. But it's people like Sam that make others aware so that as a team we can come together and identify challenges and make that right. And the guy knows how to drink good beer.
I mean, every company has growing pains and everything like that, and this company's grown so much, so quick, that we've had to identify points where we have issues. And the best time to identify that is when you can taste the beer. And sit and drink the beer after work, and you can realize that something's wrong, or you just figure out what's going wrong. And
does it ever get confusing, though? I mean, you know, you taste so much beer that you're like, what am I even tasting? Like, if you sit down at a bar and you drink a double IPA, triple IPA, you're not going to taste anything else for the next 2 hours. You know, you've abused your taste buds to a point or something. But like, you know, you're working in beer every day, you're tasting beer every day. Is there a point where you're just like, sort of lose your
absolutely, like experience, like fatigue and stuff like that, especially like palate fatigue.
Fatigue.
Like when you're dealing with tasting beers every day while I'm sampling and doing gravities and making sure that fermentation's going correctly. Like you definitely, I'm dealing with another hazy IPA that's still sweet, still fermenting. You get to the point where you have a lot of them.
Absolutely.
What's the palate cleanser? I mean, is it celery? Is it a coffee bean? Is it, is there something that can help you?
I mean, I'm biased. I mean, the palate cleanser is always Revision
Probably
IPA.
an IPA. I'm so glad he said it because
That's the standard.
Reset.
You know what was awesome? We launched Citra Slam, and I saw a decrease in IPA sales. Not necessarily sales, but flow through the tap room, and it's because they were probably drinking Citra Slam.
Citrus Slam's
That's
a
what I started
really
with
good
when I
beer.
got here. A very
really good.
classic. Like I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing in IPAs. Is that little bit of throat rip and like the overly bitter IPA. I was like, this is what I want. When I walked in, like, well, what beer do you want to drink? I'm like, I want to drink what you think I should drink. And they're like, here's a Citrus Slam. And I was like, you're not giving me a hazy, you're giving me a West Coast?
Yeah.
Oh, a girl after my own heart.
Man, hazies are amazing beers. They're amazing. I'll leave it as that. We're getting ready to bring in a separator from GEA to help be more consistent with our hazies. I love the aromatic contributions the hops bring to those styles, the flavor components, and always experience. You should ask me what experience means to me, and I'll tell you one day. But when it comes to a West Coast style pale ale, IPA, or double IPA, hands down, that'll always be my choice.
Me too, over a hazy.
Yeah.
I do like those hazies, and I think Sierra Nevada makes a great one.
I love a great hazy. I don't like a mediocre hazy.
Yes.
But I'll take a mediocre West Coast over a mediocre hazy every day.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It's like the West Coast IPA is kind of my go-to, and so it's kind of like a taco. You'll accept many different levels of a taco or whatever. But if I'm going to order like a hazy, that's almost like maybe a rack of ribs or something. I want it to be really, really fucking
be
good.
on point, man.
And I actually wish there was like a little bit more of a cultural connection between the Pacific Northwest and the Northeast, because I think there's a lot of similarities, and in both of those places, there are people who are like dedicated to the craft.
Absolutely.
And I'm not to disparage the flyover states because I love them.
No.
And in fact, like, don't sleep on places like Madison, Wisconsin, or like even St. Paul. Like, there's some like really, really happening cultural spots out there. But like that East Coast West Coast thing, like if hazy's the cultural bridge, then great. Like, give it to me. I love them.
But we got to define that, like the cultural aspect, the flavor differentials between West Coast and East Coast.
Yeah.
Hey, you might have Monkish, you might have Field Work, you might have Revision, you might have New Glory.
New Glory is so good.
Dude, those guys are killing it, man. They're fucking killing it, right? So if you were to line all those up on the table that I mentioned, and we all get to enjoy those amazing hazy beers.
Then you throw a treehouse in there, like, whoa,
And Trillium and Other Half and Creature Comforts and many other great hazy IPAs. What's different? What is that? Like, define that. And that's...
So one of our friends in Auburn is in the beer industry, and he's always talking about how the craft industry is too focused on what's new and not what's focused on what's good. And I don't totally agree with his premise, but I understand...
Because you can do good new.
Yeah, you could do good new, but I also... I kind of agree with where he's coming from, and I think that's something I want to know about you guys' battle with.
I'm so sorry. Sam walked away. And
he brought you delicious beer.
He brought me an unfiltered Revision dip that he pulled off and cellared and...
I've been secretly carbing it for a while just so we can see how it turns out.
No disrespect, but remember, I'm always about the beer. And
do a live tasting.
Dude, you can taste the pellet sensation of that beer.
Sam's always been like, is there any way we can just not filter?
I mean, that's more work.
Fantastic.
I mean, filtering's work for me, so...
Again, I apologize, but it's...
How dare you filter a beer
this,
in 2019,
this beer,
Sam? You're going to recommend filtering a beer? You son of a bitch.
Yeah, we just high-fived on that
It
one.
doesn't scratch your throat out. It's not like eating a piece of 80 grit sandpaper,
but like a 40 grit,
But
though.
like that floral thing, that real hoppy thing is super forward, and like the finish of it is super smooth. Yeah. I like this a lot.
This is the
What is that called?
That's just our regular
double IPA?
Double IPA, and then it's just unfiltered. I pulled it right off the fermenter as I was filtering.
That's
Son
really
of a bitch,
good.
Sam.
Dude, I'm sorry. I didn't even know about that until just now. That's why I couldn't answer your question. Because for any of those that ever do talk to me, I will ignore you if we're talking about beer. That is very cool.
That's fine.
Wow. So
the question was, how do you keep up with the new school? Like, you got to have the hottest, coolest thing versus maintaining your classic style.
The pressure versus new. You know,
Versus
what's new or
quality
versus
and
what
standards.
is art, you know?
Okay. Well, you said art. So art is what Revision's about. New versus old. Don't get me wrong, man. There's a lot of old school beers out there. There's a lot of old school beers that myself and our team has produced, and not only here at Revision, but at Knee Deep, and those are amazing beers. But when you start talking about, I was just texting Thomas at Belching Beaver today, and we're talking about Citra and Mosaic and the changing environment on supply and demand. And I texted him and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on with Citra and Mosaic? And he goes, dude, Citra. And this is quoting Thomas, is Citra and Mosaic is the new Nelson. And he's right.
Nelson was so hot.
So don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to voice my thoughts and go, where the fuck did all the Citra and Mosaic go? So Jeb, being Jeb, and he's really good at what he does, he took my question and he quantified it. Look at the amount of breweries that are under 1,000 barrels a year. Look at the amount of breweries that don't contract, they're buying on spot. And you take their annual production and you multiply those numbers together, and you take the annual output of Citra, and your numbers are pretty fucking close. That's what happened, right? And I'm not saying this as a negative. I'm saying good for everybody, right? Like, this is awesome. This is new. This is different.
Was it some cynical capitalistic thing that brought Citra hops to the forefront of the market?
I don't know, man.
They're
because
so good.
They
Citra
are good.
hops
I mean,
are
I'm
so
into it.
good.
I'm super into it. But was it more of a market force, or was it more of a what people want?
When it comes to Citra, I'm just gonna give my quick response to that. Citra is my hidden weapon.
Yeah.
Citra will punch through anything.
They should call it a cure-all.
It could be my antibiotic.
Yeah. But let
Yeah.
me tell you this. Mosaic will ruin a beer.
So, I mean, are you saying that there are plenty decent beers that are based around Mosaic hops, but if you add it where it doesn't belong, it ruins a beer? Or are you saying Mosaic hops is rubbish?
Mosaic
And Sam, what do you think?
is a supplementary hop.
I think Mosaic can always overpower.
Yeah.
Mosaic can easily overpower a beer.
It's a complementary hop. It is not a focused hop.
So it's
not
on
your
the cast.
primary hop.
It's on the cast. It's not the star. How do you keep track of it all, Sam?
I mean, we have so many different beers here, so it's crazy. I think Mosaic hop, you can make a great single hop Mosaic. And it's,
Right.
And I think
'Cause,
that's
like,
a good one. If
Carl
you can,
Strauss
you can
Mosaic,
balance it very
so
well. So you can definitely balance a single hop Mosaic really well. But you
Absolutely.
have to do different things with that beer than you normally would with a Citra single hop beer.
But like Carl Strauss's Mosaic, so good. But like other Mosaic focused beers, I could not give them to my worst enemies.
You have to try our Mosaic Revenge. It's pretty good. It's
look,
my second favorite single hop beer that we make. First being
But
Citra.
it's a single hop IPA.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for a beer to be bad.
But I'm an asshole, and my opinions aren't always facts.
I mean, I'm saying you have to be careful with any pairing that you do with your hops. I mean,
Yeah.
you always have to be careful.
Because Mosaic is one of those like premier lab developed hops, right?
I mean, it is a proprietary YCH hop, so it's one of the ones just like Citra and Simcoe.
I feel kind of the same way when I go into the local recreational legal cannabis dispensaries. These are places where they sell you cannabis that is local and recreational and legal. And they, the bud tenders, give you...
Are they called bud tenders?
They are called bud tenders.
Fuck my life.
They are fucking called bud tenders. And they give you more options than you could ever possibly deal with. And you're like...
Don't we do that in beer?
Yes, you do. Yes, beer guys do that too.
Beer
and it's
tenders.
like, I just want to...
That's what we call them.
I
Yes,
want
and we still
to
do.
get a little affected, and I want to enjoy the taste and the experience. Like, I don't know what exact style of hops or cannabis that I want, but like, I'm the consumer. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a scientist. I want something really freaking tasty that makes me feel amazing. And
that's why we educate our beer tenders here at Revision constantly.
Yeah.
We want to make sure they know what goes into every beer. They can tell you exactly what's in it, what flavors you want. If you want something fruity, floral, if you want something citrusy.
Yeah.
We have a ton of beers here, and we know what to give you.
Have you ever thought about how there's certain aspects of language that just don't hold up very well? And I don't know about other languages, but in English, we have like actually a really hard time talking about what things taste like and what they feel like in our mouths. And
I think that's an insecurity.
I just feel like there's, so what is savory to you? Is it the same as me? What is sour to you? Is
savory
it the same?
is unami. It's meaty. It's what I find on a consumer level about people being vocal about what they smell and taste is, and I had to throw it out there. It's an insecurity. It's a fear of saying the wrong thing and how people are going to react. Right?
It shouldn't be the wrong thing.
No, it shouldn't.
It's what you
Beer
taste.
is an opinion.
Because if
It's not a fact.
no, if I'm standing at the top room at Revision and I order this beer and they go, and someone asks me, hey, what do you smell or taste? And I taste, and again, let's not use Revision as the example for this, but let's say someone goes, I get broccoli, so I'm going to go, do you mean vegetal? So sometimes saying the incorrect thing just allows those that may have more experience hone your vocabulary and channel it in the right way, right? So when I first started brewing beer here in Reno, I used to go to the Reno homebrewer off of Dickerson when it used to be down there, and Rob would have some of the local guys in town from Silver Peak, from Great Basin, and those guys would come in and teach a homebrew class, right? And I remember the first one I went to had to do with stouts and imperial stouts, right? And we were brewing this imperial stout or stout, but they made us try a whole bunch of different beers based on the style we were brewing. And they were very open about, hey, when we go through down the line of these beers, just say what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Because you're not wrong.
Who gives a shit? Just say it.
You might not know the experience,
No.
but like
things you say where you get people that may have more experience and knowledge can help you channel that. And because when it comes to your olfactory, your brain knows what the fuck's going on, in my opinion, right? You just might know how to say it.
You just might not know the words for it. And the language doesn't really help us, I mean, there's not enough words for it, but it is important to try and describe it. My first move to California, I ended up going to like this really, really nice winery in a cave in Napa and all that. And the winery owner was like, don't be afraid. Don't worry about the snobs. Tell me what you taste, and that's it. I mean, community is incredibly important, and all of us are missing that to an extent that we're seeking it out anywhere we can find it.
Yeah.
But groupthink is a dangerous. That's what makes mob mentality.
And I think, every week, at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday around here, we always get together, regulars in the tap room, people who are off work, and we always stand around here, and we all bring in bottles, and we from all over the place, and we all try.
Yeah.
We all try from everything, and we all just give honest opinions.
Yeah.
And it's always...
That's all you can do.
And it's what we give, and then we find amazing things sometimes that we want to try to emulate, or something that's a great idea. I hope we can work towards that, and something like that.
I can't wait till the next time I come here and I try something, and I can just be like, Jeremy, this beer is shit.
If you either email me or call me or say my face.
I would never.
No. But there might be a day, because no one's perfect, right?
what?
And beers could be subjective and personal preferences. Like we look through this fence right now and we look at all these people drinking beer for the DJ trivia tonight. I guarantee you there's a few people out here drinking their beer going, what the fuck am I drinking?
Yeah.
Because they're here with somebody else, right? So what's important is and Sam's good at giving me honest feedback. Like this guy's
sometimes too honest.
but he's helped me grow. He's helped me. You cannot be a good person, you cannot grow if you're not willing to accept feedback. And
Absolutely.
if you ask a question, if you ask for feedback, or if you're going to make a product and sell it, you just ask for feedback. You need to listen to it, and you need to grow from that. But you know what? I want to know.
There's this fantastic series of memes, and they're usually labeled design versus user experience.
Absolutely.
And you know, it kind of shows these breakdowns of like, yes, the design team had an amazing idea, but sometimes in like the way that it gets out to the user, that ain't it, chief.
Look, I'm not going to lie. We were warned like half an hour ago, hey, we're about to start trivia.
Yeah.
So this is how Revision works. Hey, at the end of the day, it's about good beer. It's about the good people. It's a culture, man. You know, I don't care who you are, what you do. Just make good beer, connect with the people, and you are craft.
Yay!
Yes!
That is
All right.
love. And I
So-
appreciate you, Jeremy.
Andy Zuker, where can people find Thundervision and the Moving Crew online?
So people can find my music at thundervisionmusic.com, and they can find my moving company at calmovingcrew.com.
And you can also look at the NPR Tiny Desk competition.
Yes, I
you
did
have a
do a
lot of
tiny-
good songs.
I
You
did.
have a song about the Flint, Michigan water crisis on there?
That's true, because I grew up 20 miles from Flint, and I did my first Tiny Desk entry was a really, really uncomfortable political song about the Flint water crisis. And every time I've played that back home in Michigan, I've gotten stone cold, terrible response. They do not want to hear it. They do not want to deal with it. But music is one of those great venues for political thought, for social change. So I did that, but most of my songs aren't nearly as depressing.
And you're a one-man band
One-man band.
using all kinds of loopers and all kinds of technical
Loopers.
aspects to
Yeah.
create your music.
Yeah.
The voice of a goddamned angel. I can't, like, I don't care how bad your recording studio or recording device is. Starry Red Eyes, a wonderful song, no matter how you slice it.
I'm really proud of that song. That was the last song I wrote in my parents' garage before I moved to the West Coast.
Well, there's not that many people that wear a Detroit Motown t-shirt.
So, Jeremy Warren from Revision Brewing. So, where can we find you online on the internet? Find your beers all that
Online,
fun
it's
stuff?
Instagram is at Revision Brewing or at Revision Brewing Co. So the difference between the two is at Revision Brewing Co. is just following me personally on my journey.
Gross.
Exactly. I would not recommend that because don't get me wrong, there's sometimes I might be in a different state and might post something that, Facebook is at Revision Brewing. Our website, revisionbrewing.com. But most importantly, where you can find us is in our tap room. 380 South Rock Boulevard, Sparks, Nevada, 89431.
Whoa.
But what's most important is not about revision. What's most important is that you're drinking a beer that is awesome and you're enjoying yourself and most importantly having a great experience.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, also, you mentioned you were recording an album, Andy. What's the album going to be called? Do you have a title for it yet?
The album is called Sunlight. It is due out probably in September of this year.
You can follow Barley and me at Barley and Me Pod across
Yes.
social media.
Thank you guys for coming up, man. This is awesome.
Jeremy Warren from Revision
Very
Brewing.
awesome.
Jeb Taylor, Sam last name unknown from Revision Brewing. Thank you so much. This has been episode 104 of Barley and Me. Thank you so much for listening. Get home safe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.